Hey, welcome back to the Made for More podcast. Today I'm chatting with Alexis Teichmiller. Alexis is a lifestyle blogger and millennial podcast host of the Laptop Lifestyle, a podcast for virtual entrepreneurs, millennials on the go, and adventure seekers with big dreams. She spends her days working for an email marketing software called ConvertKit, where she teaches people how to use email marketing to grow their online business. Her main passion is creating lifestyle content for brands. She's worked with brands like Coach, Turo, Airbnb, Shannan, and Shoptober, just to name a few. So this girl is super down to earth and has just this really incredible vibe about her. So I'm so excited to have you here, Alexis. Welcome to the show.
Hi, man, that's a really great intro. I really appreciate that. I'm stoked to be here, and I'm excited to just dive into wherever the conversation leads us.
Yes, I love this. So, I feel like I know a little bits of your story. I've heard different types of things, and so I'd love for you to kind of and I know we're gonna dive into sort of what the laptop lifestyle means to you. But before we get there, I'm curious to kind of hear your story, how it all started. So would you sort of share that journey with us?
I would love to. I'll kind of give you like the Cliff Notes version. So I grew up in a really small town of about 500 people in the middle of Illinois. So kind of farmland. And my graduating class was 26 kids.
Oh my
And
gosh.
so I grew up, again, very, very tiny town and a farming culture, really hardworking people, and with a really strong community that believed in each other. And then I went to college, again, just 30 minutes down the road in a cornfield at a small state school, and studied marketing and with a creative nonfiction writing minor. And whenever I was 17, right before I went to college, my senior year of high school, and this is like a really important part of my story, I took a class my senior year of high school called Creating Entrepreneurial Opportunities. And in that class, we met every single day for an entire year from 7:30 to 9. So it was like an elective, but you had to apply to get into it. So that there was an interview process, and basically it taught you the fundamentals of entrepreneurship, like just basically a group of 25 17-year-olds teaching them the ins and outs of entrepreneurship. And we would go and we would tour people's businesses. Speakers would come into the class and they would teach us about how they started their business and their struggles and their failures and what it took to be an entrepreneur. And from that moment in that class was when I knew I want to solve problems for people, which is what an entrepreneur does. And I want to think creatively, which is what an entrepreneur does. So I was like, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. Duh. This is what I want to do. So from 17, I knew I wanted to own my own business. And girl, I've been hustling since I was like 8. Like whenever I was 8, I would go to Walmart, buy a CD. Like I specifically remember buying like an Avril Lavigne CD.
Yes.
And then I would go home and I would burn the CD and bring copies to school and then sell them for $1.50.
Oh my
And then
gosh.
so I was just selling all these CDs and like trying to make a little cash. It's just like, whenever you're older, you look back at things like that and you're like, hey, I was a little entrepreneur. But in that moment, I was just like, hey, I have a burning machine and I'm going to sell these CDs for $1.50 and make some money for concession stand to buy some candy at lunch. But from that point, after I graduated high school, I went into college. 2 years in, I got a little bored. I was like, all right, I'm doing the college thing. I'm doing the 4-year path. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, quote unquote, supposed to do, go to college, get a degree. And I believe in education, don't get me wrong. But I also believe in applying that education to life immediately. So like just sitting and learning for 4 years, but doing nothing with that knowledge, it seems kind of wasteful to me.
Yeah.
So 2 years in, I was like, how can I take everything I'm learning about marketing and apply it to something right now? So I started a women's clothing boutique whenever I just turned 20. It's called AT Avenue. And I ran that for about 2.5 years, my last 2 years of college. And then even after I graduated and I moved to Nashville, I continued it there for a little bit as well. And coming from a small town, there were 0 options for clothing. So I started AT Avenue as kind of a kind of a bridge for women in my area to get access to really unique styles from LA and New York. And
Cool.
I would hand curate all the different styles. And I would do trunk shows in women's houses. And I thought, like, my 20-year-old brain was like, oh, my target audience is going to be college girls, duh. And it wasn't at all, because I realized college girls don't have any money. So I then like retargeted and kind of pivoted to realizing that my target audience was actually women 35 to 55. And so here I am, this 20, 21-year-old girl going into these, 40-year-old women's homes with all their friends and hearing how they talked about themselves and hearing how they felt about themselves. And it was so interesting to me to be able to be a part of seeing them transform in front of my eyes, putting on a piece of clothing that I picked out, and then telling them that they were beautiful and styling them and like picking out date night outfits. And it was so much fun. And so it became less about the clothes and more about the stories that I was like creating and helping create and hearing from these women. And that was like life changing. So that's kind of when I kind of pivoted into the storytelling of marketing, of not just selling a product, but how can I then tell a story with that product, or tell the story of a customer or of an audience. So I took that business online after doing trunk shows for a year and a half and like throwing out my back. I did like
Oh,
70 trunk shows in my first year. And I was like, I am one person. I cannot do all this alone.
wow.
And I had a ton of help, which was awesome. I had a lot of help from my parents, and I had an incredible intern named Molly. Hi, Molly, if you're listening. But anyways, yeah, so I had a lot of help, but then I decided to kind of transition online. And that's when I realized that online marketing is hard. Online marketing is really hard, especially whenever there's like, how many online boutiques are there? How many bloggers are there? How many content creators? How many life coaches? Like, it's tough. And so how do you tell your story then that makes you an authority figure in a space, or makes, or allows you to build trust with your audience? So then I was like, there's two sides to this storytelling. It's not just the customer story, it's also the company story and how you share that brand with that audience. So then after I graduated college, moved to Nashville. Nashville is always a dream of mine. I worked for a New York Times bestselling author and keynote speaker and ran all of his marketing, his podcast, social media, blog. And then
Amazing.
after doing that for about a year, I kind of pivoted again into more of the tech space. And now I work for ConvertKit as the affiliate manager. And I manage all their affiliates and do kind of top funnel sales. And I love it. Like, I love talking to people. I love helping people solve problems, which again, I feel like I'm an entrepreneur and an intrapreneur. So the
Mm,
intrapreneur, I'm at my job, I'm helping people solve problems, I'm creatively thinking, which for any of you guys listening who work for somebody else but have a side hustle, that's awesome. You don't always have to have that side hustle and feel the pressure to take it full time. Sometimes you can love your job like me and also have a successful side hustle.
I love
So no
that.
pressure to quit your day job if you love it. So that's kind of where I am now, and I do content creation for brands. And that was a very long answer, Shannon. So I'm gonna bring it back to you.
No, wow, that was amazing. Like, what a journey. That's incredible. But it's for every entrepreneur, you have all of these stepping stones that really lead you to where you are today. And I love what you were saying about just when you were working with those women and seeing their face light up, and I feel like that's the thing that for me, being an entrepreneur is the best thing, because you feel like you have that direct impact on someone. I know when I was working in a corporate position, I just felt like too far removed from the impact that I was having. So I love that you mentioned that. And I mean, I wish I had that class, or I probably did. And I entrepreneurship wasn't on my radar, so I didn't even go there. But that sounds amazing. So did you always feel like, right now with working for ConvertKit, did you, see yourself working for that kind of, virtual tech company? Is that something that you thought of, that you were really interested in?
Yeah, so it's actually kind of funny. So my first job out of college, I was technically an independent contractor. So that's basically like I was running my own
Mm,
business, but I was contracted to do all of these things. But I could, there was an office I could go could go into in Nashville, but I didn't have to. So actually, like my first job out of college was kind of a remote job where I could still travel and I could go into the office or I could work from home. So that wasn't necessarily something I chose. It was just something that came along with the job. And then
Mm-hmm.
whenever I kind of transitioned to work for ConvertKit, working with a remote team, fully remote. So there's 25 employees that serve about 14,000 customers, and we are all remote all over the world. And that's really interesting to me because we get together twice a year for retreats to like create culture, and just like whenever we're together, we get some serious stuff done. But I think that's kind of what played into the laptop lifestyle. I was living a laptop lifestyle and didn't really realize it. So I was creating my own culture in my office upstairs. Like I was creating my own routine. I was setting my own boundaries of time. And that was really interesting. And I've never actually had what you would call a normal job, even out of college. Because I feel like a normal 9 to 5 is like you go to a physical location and
Mm-hmm.
you work 8 hours and then you come home. But it's kind of weird. Like I can clock in and work anytime, and I love that. So I can clock in and I can like throw in 5 hours in the morning and then go to lunch with a friend and then finish my day at a coffee shop. So I get to kind of choose where I want to work. And then having the side hustle alongside of that is awesome. So if I'm traveling with a brand, I can
Mm-hmm.
still work on the road. So I actually wouldn't choose any other life than remote life. Like I don't think I'll ever go back to working in an office. It'll be very, very tough for me to do that. I don't want to put on a pantsuit, to be honest with you, Shannon. No pantsuits for me.
No pants. Oh, yoga pants or no pants at all for the entrepreneur life. But oh, I love that. I
Preach.
think I think that that's amazing, and that you've found, like you were saying, don't feel pressured to have to quit your job if you love it. Like, and that's an okay thing. I know when I first got into this whole world of online entrepreneurship, you were seeing so many people say like, quit your 9 to 5. And like, it was made out to feel like if you had a job and you were trying to build a business, you weren't necessarily successful as an entrepreneur if you hadn't quit yet, I love that you're talking about this and saying, you can have both. And if it's ultimately what is going to fulfill you.
Right. And there's also that if you have a full-time job and you have a side hustle and you haven't taken that side hustle full-time, you're a failure.
Mm,
Or if you work a 9 to 5 job and you don't have something cooking on the side, you're a failure because then you're not creatively thinking. And I really just don't believe that. So like, don't believe those lies that kind of this entrepreneurial side hustle, almost like Gary Vee kind of mentality. And I like Gary Vee. I literally have his screensaver as like the lock screen on my phone. So I love like his hustle, but there's also that flip side of that lifestyle is not for everybody. Like
yeah.
working a full-time job and having a side hustle isn't for everybody. And so if you're someone that's in the middle like me, hey, hang out here with me for as long as you want. I love it. Like I love having both. But for those of you who are working towards going full-time, that's incredible too.
Mm-hmm.
But just don't let that pressure eat you, and don't let that feeling of, well, I haven't gone full-time yet, I'm a failure. That's not true. So don't believe those kind of entrepreneurial societal lies that we tell ourselves. Like where you are right now is exactly where you're supposed to be. What you're learning right now is exactly what you're supposed to be learning. That's going to prepare you for those next steps. And if you were trying to jumpstart that and skip all the processes and all the learning that you're learning right now, you could be missing something. And so don't try to speed up your process. Just be really grateful for where you are right now. Soak it up, learn as much as possible, and always be looking for areas of growth, but try not to speed up the process at the same time. And that's tough, especially for an entrepreneur, because you're like, let's get this shit going, like let's move. And that can be tough.
Amen, sister. I love that. That was amazing. Yeah, it's such an important message because getting into this world, this can be overwhelming at first. So I love that you brought that to this episode. And there's one thing that I wanted to ask you, to kind of take it back to just, this whole virtual space. One of the things that we talked about on our call before we even recorded our first conversation, you were talking about how you love to create community in a virtual space. So you kind of spoke about how you did that for yourself when you started working for ConvertKit. But just with like the laptop lifestyle community and sort of what you've built, how do you sort of approach that? And what does that look like for you in building relationships virtually? Because I know sometimes it can be easier said than done. And what really creates that authentic relationship online or virtually?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I mean, let's just take it back before the computer existed, before social media. Like your way of connecting with people was either traveling to different cultures and experiencing different cultures that way, or like in your hometown or where you were. So it was kind of limiting to you chose who you wanted to interact with. And it was kind of defined or confined to this one area of life. But with social media, you can literally talk to anybody, anywhere, anytime. And I think it opens up a massive just path of opportunity that some people want to look at negatively. And it's
Mm,
like people can get really caught up in comparison, in social followings and likes, and finding a lot of validation in that. And hey, I've been there. So I want to speak to you from a place of personal experience, not from like sitting up on a hill somewhere looking down. Like, and I still struggle with that. And that's a huge part of building community online. Is if you're going to build a community online, make sure you're doing it for the right intentions. And so am I doing this for me, or am I doing this to see what I can maybe offer to the world and help somebody? So are you doing it for a selfish reason or a selfless reason? And I think that's what actually helps me every time I post on social media is, am I doing this for me, or am I doing this to help somebody else? Are my words for me, or are my words to help somebody else and serve someone else? So once you kind of set your intention of why you want to build a community, then start building a community. Like, does that make sense, Shannan? Like,
yeah.
instead of just like doing it just for the kicks, like ask yourself why you're actually wanting to build an audience online. What are you
Mm-hmm.
going to do with that audience? What kind of responsibility does having an audience come with? No one talks
There's a
about
lot of
that
that.
either. What do you, yeah, what are you going to stand for online? What does your brand stand for? So when it comes to creating a community and how to stay authentic, I think it's rooted in intention, but also in authenticity. And authenticity is a buzzword right now in 2017. But if I could pick one buzzword to be had, it would be that. Like, I will always try to default to authenticity and connection. And you and I were actually just talking about this before we started recording, Shannan. But when it comes to building community online, you really have two options. You can, just like you have this option whenever you meet somebody in real life too, you either can choose to impress them or you can choose to connect with them. And if you choose to try to impress them, they're going to see through that. They're going to be
Mm-hmm.
like, this chick's not real, or her message seems a little off to me. I'm not really resonating with that. Or you'll get some bad feedback. Or you can choose to connect. And that's where real relationships online are had. It's in those Me Too moments. And by creating those Me Too moments with people online, that's how you create a really close-knit community. So with the laptop lifestyle, and specifically my audience of remote or virtual workers, or people who have a side hustle, who are trying to start a blog or have a YouTube channel, or who just quit their day job to pursue their passion, like that's my audience. And so any type of content I create online, I want to speak to that audience, at
Mm-hmm.
least a specific segment of them. And so that, again, rooted in intention, why am I creating an audience? It's to speak to them and help them in some type of way. So I think it's really tough. I think trying to pursue vulnerability online it's tough, but I think it's so worth it. Like when I take a chance and write something that kind of makes me sick, but I hit publish anyways, that's when
Mm-hmm.
I get the most response, because people see that I am just trying to be a human and I'm trying to connect with other humans, versus trying to be something that I'm not, or trying to create a community that is just not. So that's kind of my viewpoint of it. And that's what's helped me try to always default to connection instead of defaulting to impression, even though, girl, it's tough. Like, it's so tough, especially whenever you see people in your same space growing quicker or doing bigger things or getting
Mm-hmm.
book deals. And it's like you've taken the everyday entrepreneurial competition and you've just added a mic, like you've added a microscope to it, and that's called social media. And so if someone's success is making you feel like a failure, unfollow. You don't have to explain yourself, even if they're a friend. Like if someone else, if you're letting that competition get to you, take it out of your newsfeed. Like that's on you. That's your responsibility, not theirs. You should be celebrating them, but if you're in a place mentally where you can't celebrate, just simply unfollow. That's something that's helped me too, because I want to be positive. I want to help and celebrate people, but if I'm in a place where I can't, I just take them off my newsfeed.
I love that. Simple, right? I mean, I did that last week a little bit, because there are certain people that you are easily triggered by. And, I love that you use the word intention. That's literally my favorite word. And my business is so rooted in that. Everything that I do, and, from taking action, it's all rooted in intentionality. And I think that that's really important. And I know recently on your Instagram stories, you shared something, and I know we were going to possibly talk about this today. But you had mentioned something about collaborating with a brand. And so this, I guess, is a kind of good transition, because we're talking about building relationships online. And I know you collaborate with brands, and what you were sort of talking about was like not feeling like you're too small to collaborate and partner with these bigger companies, these bigger brands, and do some really great work. So I'd love to hear, your perspective on that. And then maybe also just sort of the kind of work that you do with them, and to hear a little bit of that side of your life and your business.
Yeah, I would love to. So I started out kind of in like the fashion lifestyle space, and was creating a lot of content just by myself, like just taking photos or travel photos or outfit photos and just posting them on my blog. But the more I saw people doing that, the more I realized that there was a gap between content creators and brands. And what I realized, and at least this is what's really working for me. So this isn't necessarily a general statement about the whole blogging content creator space, but this is what has worked for me, is that I took a different approach of, this brand doesn't necessarily care about this content living on my blog. This brand cares about me understanding its story and its audience so well that I create content, and the brand deal is me giving them that content. It's not me posting on social media. It's not me putting on my blog or recording a podcast about it. It is actually the content that they want for their own distribution. And that's something I'm not seeing a lot of content creators doing, where like literally I'll do a shoot and I'll art direct something, and then I'll have my photographer edit the photos, and then we Dropbox them the photos. Like that's the deal. It's not living on my blog, and they freaking love it. Like that's what people, at least that's what I've seen people really like want. So something that happened, to like give you an actual example, is I was just going about my day, and I got this email from the PR company for a beauty brand called Soap and Glory. And they're, got beautiful branding. It's pink and colorful and super girly. And they're in like Target, Sephora, Ulta. And they reached out to me and wanted to bring me and a plus one to a music festival called Bonnaroo. And Bonnaroo is kind of like the Woodstock of the millennial generation, and it's in the middle of a field in like southern Tennessee. So it's kind of like a little bit more Woodstock than Coachella. Like it's
Gotcha.
like 100,000 people sweating for 4 days in the middle of like and it's amazing. And so Soap and Glory was going to be there, and they wanted to bring me and a plus one along the way just to create content. That was it. Like we're going to partner with you. We're going to get you, VIP tickets and a lot of product to try out to create content with. And then also we're going to put you up in a hotel. And whenever I read this email, literally, Shannan, like I started crying, because this is 100% the biggest brand deal I'd ever gotten. And the capacity at which they wanted to partner with me was insane. I was just like, this is crazy. I'm just this girl, this small town girl from Illinois with 6,000 Instagram followers, like no YouTube channel, no Twitter following, like, but I can create really good content, and I can art direct a beautiful shoot. And that's my thing. Like my thing is not, I have 100,000 Instagram followers or I have this massive social following. My thing is I create good content, and that's what they wanted. And so to have them partner with me in that way, and then they were like, when I got to Bonnaroo, the two PR girls were like, we've been following you for a really long time. We love your authenticity and vulnerability online. Like they like went back to posts that I had written months ago and brought them up in conversation. And they had been following my connection driven content for months. And so when
Wow.
they got an opportunity to choose somebody, they chose me, which is insane, you know? But I guess me being real online really resonated with them. It was a breath of fresh air, which is crazy. And so then a couple days later, I got another email from Blue Moon Brewing, which is like my favorite beer company on the planet. It's my grandpa's beer, it's my dad's beer, it's my beer. And they wanted to partner with me and send me a bunch of their summer products to create content. And both of these opportunities came within about a week of each other. And it really made me stop and think about the limitations I put on myself. And I
Mm.
stopped and I thought I would never get here. I thought I would never get brands this big to recognize me. Brands that even meant something to me, like Blue Moon. And then huge, incredible, like international brands like Soap and Glory to even look a second way at me. And what it made me realize is that whenever I took off that ego coat of I'm gonna try to impress the world with how awesome I am,
Mhm.
they recognized that I was here to create real, authentic content specific to my story or to their story. And that just goes to show that it doesn't matter how big you are. Like, it doesn't matter if you have the biggest social following or the smallest social following. Opportunity is opportunity. And if you work really hard and you do it with a really vulnerable heart and your intention is pure, good things will happen. Like, they will. And I think I'm a testament to that. Like, that's
Yeah.
insane, right?
It's incredible. I'm just sitting here like taking that all in, and I think it comes back to what you're saying about intentionality, and like you had the right intention. You always have, from the get-go of having an online presence and what you're sort of doing with that. And I think that the fact that it's so rare, you're right, that people don't necessarily go and take the time to research the brands, to get to know their story. And I mean, that's what you're doing, and that's what's making all the difference. And I think, yeah, they wanted quality over quantity. They didn't need to see, 100,000 Instagram followers from you.
Right.
So I think that that's amazing. And that, it kind of makes me think about my corporate background in meetings and events. We always think about like what to do that's completely different than what anyone else is doing, or like how do you create this experience, the hospitality that you bring to everything. And so that just makes me think of what you're doing with brands, and I've never really heard anyone talk about it that way. And I don't know a lot about brand collaborations, but I think it's so fascinating, and it's just like a beautiful partnership when you can really find a connection point between who you are and what they represent and what they're creating, and then be able to partner in that way together. That's
Right.
that's awesome. What has been
Yeah.
sort of your favorite part from these collaborations?
Ooh. I think a few of my favorite parts, one being that I love the response I get from bloggers my size who are
Mm,
like, how did this happen? Like, how, like, or bloggers bigger or smaller. And then I get to share. I'm like, because that's what I want to do. I want to share that it's possible to get these deals and to get these partnerships and to create incredible, really unique art, not just like the same photos that you see online. Like, I want to create art.
mm,
And then I get to share with them, here's how I did it, and then hopefully help them. Like, that's my biggest reason why I do the brand stuff. And then also, like, I love working with the people that with the brands, like their different teams, getting to know them, understanding really what they want. And that's something that a lot of content creators and really entrepreneurs in general don't do. Is they're like, I'm going to create this thing and I'm going to put all of my money, blood, sweat, tears, energy, heart into this thing. and then I'm going to sell it. But I'm not going to ask anybody if they want the thing or not. And like, you can't do that.
No.
And I see a lot of people do it. I see a lot of online entrepreneurs do it, bloggers. I mean, I feel like that example can really be like, you can translate that to pretty much any industry,
Mm-hmm.
is you have to be so tied into what your audience wants you to do. And so if you're about to create a product online, ask your audience. If you're about to write a book and you don't know what to write or what the main takeaway should be, ask your freaking audience. Like, always be dialed into what they want, because they're your advocates, they're your ambassadors. So whether that's me creating a good piece of content, I'm going to go to the brand and be like, what exactly are you envisioning? Like, how can I help you create exactly what you want? Because then the best part is they're going to use that content. Like,
Mm-hmm.
they're going to put it in their Facebook ads, and they're actually going to use it because it's what they wanted, versus my lens. Like, this is my lens. This is what I saw it to be, versus being like, what's your lens and how can I take, that and recreate it through something that I made. So always be dialed into your audience and what they want, and don't be afraid to ask. Asking does not make you like not an authority. And I think that's what entrepreneurs think, is like, well, if I ask questions to my audience, they may think I might not know what I'm doing. Well,
Right.
newsflash, entrepreneurs usually don't know what they're doing until they're doing it.
Oh
And
my
so
gosh, so true.
just ask your audience what they want, and then they feel like they helped you create it. And then they're going to feel even more tied to whatever it was that you just created.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I mean, there's so much content already out there. And so I 100% agree. Like, pre-validate, go and don't sell anything until you know somebody wants it and needs it. And that kind of comes back to, to me, you are such a giver. Like, that's you as your personality. But it's like what you said at the beginning, like, entrepreneurship is about problem solving. So it's not just about like doing to just be seen, but it's, why are you doing it? What kind of problem are you solving? And so I love that. I love the work that you do. And I think that that's great that you also gonna get to bring in like your natural strengths with like creativity and how you were saying that you art direct, and that must be
Right.
really fun too.
It's so much fun. Something that you said about being seen, I just wanted to touch on that, because that is a human condition. Like, the draw of our heart is to be seen, heard, and understood. That is what we want. We want to be acknowledged. We want appreciation. Like, I mean, like that's just who we are. That's what human nature wants. And so, as an entrepreneur or as an intrapreneur, if you're working for a kick-ass company, the goal is to make your audience, make your customer, make your friends, make your spouse feel seen, heard, and understood. That's how you become influential. That's how you become a linchpin in whatever it is that you're creating, is that you're creating this environment in this atmosphere of positivity. You're making people feel like they're important, and because people are important, but the world doesn't always make people feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're someone that can, like, you are creating influence. You're printing influential currency if you can make people feel important and show them why they are.
I love that, printing influential currency. That is going to be like a
I
tweetable,
just
even
made
though
that up.
I don't even tweet.
I just made that up.
That's amazing. Something that I was listening to another podcast that you were on, and you were talking, and this kind of relates to what you're saying about like entrepreneurs don't know what the heck they're doing until they do it. And in this podcast, you were talking about like failing fast. And like, that is what you try to do in your life. So I'd love to kind of hear you sort of just like riff on that, of your approach and what it's been like, just to kind of maybe take a step back and like what it's felt like to go on your journey and what you've had to go through or overcome to kind of get to where you are. I know you talked a little bit about that with, just overcoming these limitations, but I'd love for you to share that.
Yeah, I mean, that's a pivotal part of life, is failing, like, whether you're learning to ride the bike for the first time or you just lost $100,000 in your business. Like failing is a byproduct of life. It's gonna happen and you can't predict it. Sometimes you can. But instead of looking at failing like you just got the breath taken from your lungs and you can't breathe, can't move, you're paralyzed, you don't know what to do with your life, fail really, really fast and then just get up and keep going. Because the longer that you sit in that desperation of failure, the longer it's going to take for you to continue to take action.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're just sitting there like, I failed, I'm going to sit in this failure for a long time versus like, I failed, crap. All right, what did I learn? Turning that failure into a lesson, taking that lesson, applying it to my business, pushing on. And that's what I really do feel like the most successful people in life do, is they don't sit and just like tear apart every failure or every, typo or misword, and they just continue to take action and continue to move. I always say, whether you're limping or sprinting, forward is forward.
Mm-hmm.
And so just continue to move forward, even if it's baby steps, even if it's like you made a really big mistake and it's like eating away at you, you feel sick, like you're going to throw up. Like just take a little tiny step out of that, like just in another one and
Yeah.
another one. And I was actually at a conference this past weekend, and an incredible writer named James Clear. You can check him out. It's his website, and his name's James Clear. He's amazing. But he teaches you about habits. And something that he said that was just like amazing to me, and it was so simple, was that in life, we think we have to go 0 to 100 to like
Mm-hmm.
build a habit or to take action or to make moves. But really all you have to do is take 0 to 1 every single day. So today I'm at
Love
0.
that.
By the end of the day, I need to get to 1. And tomorrow I'm at 0 again. I need to get to 1. And then you're going to look back and you're going to see all the steps that you took to get where you are. And like, if I'm over here thinking I have to go 0 to 100, I got to go. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's that intimidation, there's that anxiety. And then I just sit here and I'm like, I can't, it's too much, but I can do 0 to 1. 0 to 1 is very possible. And
Right.
so if you apply that to failure specifically, like I just have to take one step out of this failure.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot more doable.
I love that. I feel like I've heard of him before, but yeah, I love that, analogy of it is just one little thing at a time. And also I think understanding and learning to kind of celebrate those failures, because if I look back and recall this entire journey, I wouldn't, like, everything happened for a reason. One thing leads to another. It fails because something else that is greater or better is going to come along. So I love that. It's so amazing. So one of the other things I wanted to ask you, I know you mentioned a little bit of, what your schedule looks like, but just to kind of get an idea of what your day-to-day is with balancing your role at ConvertKit and, what you do to make time for this other passion of yours. How do you sort of juggle both of those things and, also have, your personal life to attend to as well?
Yeah. That's a great question. And it's something that I fluctuate in a lot. Like my schedule is never actually very set. My morning schedule, I usually like, and I've been trying to get more of a morning schedule. So I'll get up in the morning, I'll make my French press coffee because I'm bougie and I love it. And then I'll do my devotional and like have some quiet time with the Lord and focus on like meditation and what he's trying to teach me in different struggles in my life, or meditating on what do I really need to get done today. And then from there I start my day at work. So like I just clock in, and then it depends. Like if I have a laptop lifestyle interview like I do right now,
Mm-hmm.
I'll clock out, and then later on tonight I'll probably put in like 2 more hours of work, like, at 9. Like start at 9, end at 11. So that's where the balance, and I actually like really don't like the word balance because I don't think it's possible.
I know it doesn't
Like
exist.
I don't I don't think it exists. But like it's crazy because working for a remote company and all of the side hustle stuff I do on the side, side hustle stuff I do on the side, all the side hustle stuff I do also requires a lot of like creativity, but I can do it on my laptop. So I've been traveling a lot lately. I've been in a season of crazy travel. So usually I'm like in Nashville 3 days and then I'm gone again.
Wow.
So like I just got, I went to Savannah, Georgia and Charleston, South Carolina, 2 weekends ago. And then last week I was in Boise, Idaho for ConvertKit's first conference called Craft and Commerce, which was amazing. And then I just got home on Monday. And then tomorrow after work, at like 7:30, I leave for Dallas for a week. So it just like, I don't know. I'm 24 and I love this life. Like, this is why I choose like the laptop lifestyle,
Mhm.
because I want to be able to work a full 8, 9, 10-hour day, jump on a plane, work on a plane, and then go see new things and experience new people and meet up with bloggers, meet up with content creators. Like, that's giving me life and giving me ideas for how to create content. Or like, if
Mhm.
I'm in a specific place where one of our top affiliates is, I'll go visit them. So
Awesome.
instead of looking at travel or looking at a side hustle and a full-time job, like you, like you're almost a slave to them. Like, well, I want to travel, but I can't. It's like, okay, well, if you have a virtual job or you have a remote job or you're an entrepreneur, the whole reason that you created that thing is so that you could choose to do what you wanted to do.
Yeah.
And so like I choose to spend all my time and side money traveling because I love it. That doesn't really give you a very clear answer. As you could just tell, like I don't have a set schedule. It's
Mhm.
mostly just like, here are the things I got to get done today. Things that are most important to me though, to fit into a day would be my morning, like a devotional at some point in time, talking to somebody that I care about on the phone. So like
Oh, wow.
that's
I
a
love that.
non-negotiable for me a day, like every day. So like whether that's my mom or I'm calling a little friend, like just talking to somebody on the phone for 15 minutes that I care about. Really dedicating like at least 2 hours, 1 to 2 hours a day on side stuff, and then trying to do something social. So I actually will do a lot of morning coffees too, like
Mm.
meet people at 6:45 in the morning for like an hour-long coffee, meet with other bloggers, and that's something that gives me life too. So anything that's life-giving and not life-taking, I try to make a lot of space for. And then if something doesn't feel natural, or I'm feeling a lot of tension or resistance, I'll stop, ask myself why, ask myself, is that resistance necessary for me to grow? If it is, I keep it, and if it's not, I cut it.
I love that. Oh, you're amazing. I think that that's, I have like the biggest girl crush on you. You're just so awesome. Um,
We can date. We can totally date.
I know. I think it's the biggest thing that I took away from that for you is just like you've created a life that's filled with things that you love. So, and that that is sort of the whole reason the Made for More collective community exists. It's to pursue a more intentional and inspired life. And so I
Right.
love that you totally resonate with that. And so I just want to like wrap up and ask you sort of if you have any sort of last words that you would share with someone that feels called to, pursue this. What is sort of your biggest piece of advice that you would give someone that is trying to create this life for themselves?
Mm. Yeah, that's a big question because there's a lot of moving parts. You know, if you're trying to take chance or take risk on yourself, you have to have a community that's going to support you in that. But that community cannot make you believe in yourself. So I think it starts with you. I think it's about the self-talk, the self-love, the self-motivation, the self-inspiration, that you really are able to look internally and say, I am called for something more. And if you're in a place where you're living in a scarcity mindset of I don't have enough, I'm not enough, my job's not enough, I don't have enough money, this life is not enough. I thought this was gonna be something more. And then you feel that spark one day. You're just walking along, living in a scarcity mindset, and you feel the spark of, ooh, maybe there's something more here. Maybe there's something more in me. Maybe there's something more in me that I could help the world. And I feel like I know we are all called. We all have gifts that we were given whenever we were born, whenever we were created.
Mhm.
We do. We're all so different. We all have gifts. And so for you to hide that gift from the world is an injustice. And so if you don't know what your gift is, what do people compliment you on? What do
Yeah.
people ask you questions about? How do you cook? Like, you're an amazing cook. How do you do that? Maybe your passion is just cooking for people. Or like, oh my gosh, you're so fit. Like, how do you like working out? Maybe your gift is teaching people the importance of self health. And so anything like that can get your mind moving, is a great direction. But I really do feel like it all starts with you and your ability to say, I am made for more and I'm going to do more, and I'm not going to settle for a scarcity mindset. I'm here for abundance.
Amazing. Oh, you're just so awesome, Alexis. Thank you so much for being on the show today. This was super fun.